Hidden beneath the world we know is the world they inhabit.
Dave?
Yeah, Ma?
What are you doing?
I'm taking over a TV network.
I'll finish up, honey, and get to sleep.
They're hackers.
Hackers penetrate and ravage private and publicly owned computer systems.
Hack the planet! Hack the planet!
It's not just something they do.
Sure this sweet machine's not going to waste.
Are you challenging me?
It's who they are.
I win, you wear a dress on our date.
And if I win, so do you.
They can crack any code. And get inside any system.
Hello?
Mr. Gill, according to our records, you're dead.
What?
But this time,
Come here, look at this.
It's some kind of virus.
Unless $5 million is transferred to the following account, I will capsize 5 oil tankers.
they just hacked the wrong guy.
Game's over.
Whoever wrote this needs somebody to take the fall.
He's about to commit the perfect computer crime.
You've created a virus that's going to cause a worldwide disaster?
And they're about to take the blame.
A hacker planted the virus. But it's the perfect cover.
We're being framed.
Can we be allies?
I don't play well with others.
Wow, we are fried.
Okay, let's nail it.
Now,
You're not good enough to beat me.
Yeah, maybe I'm not, but we are.
they're the only ones who can prevent a catastrophe.
I know how to stop this guy.
They'll trace you like that. Are you nuts? Come at me!
Unlike any the world has ever seen.
Never send a boy to do a woman's job.
Hackers of the world unite.
Cops on the building.
I need more time.
This is the end, my friend.
United Artists welcomes you to the new world. Hackers.
Damn the man, hack the planets.
Hack the planet!
Hey, Nat, how's it going?
Good, how are you, Katie?
I'm good. I did it. I watched Hackers. I had to start last night and finish very quickly right before we started the podcast. So I'm fresh in my mind. I'm ready to talk about this one. I have my fun facts already. This one's great because right before we jumped on, Nat was saying that she took all of the notes, as she always does, while we watch these movies. And she was like, I am the fun facts for this movie. So I'm ready for
I literally remember all the fun facts for this movie. In my notes, I'm like, the viruses that they dropped are real viruses.
Yeah. Fun fact. And
Facts.
and Dan in our live studio audience is already talking about one of our many fun facts that we rolled during the countdown as we were prepping, that this movie is Angelina Jolie's first movie, and I think Jonny Lee Miller's as well. He was in Trainspotting as well, but I can't remember whether that
First
predates
American
this or not.
movie?
First
I don't know, when
movie?
did Trainspotting come out?
I'll
Is
look
it
that
around
one
the
up.
same time?
Around the same time, but anyway, the two of them like almost immediately got married after this movie in like traditional old school Angelina Jolie way, where she apparently wore like leather pants and using a vial of like blood wrote his name on her back. Just normal stuff, normal wedding stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could see in this movie, there's one point where long story short, he says he's going to help them hack the Gibson and save everybody and save the world. And you could see her legitimately fall in love with him. Like the expression on her face, I'm like,
to see her falling in love.
I'm like, I'm pretty sure like they just happened to catch on camera her actually falling in love with Jonny Lee Miller.
Hey, yeah, you know.
Looked like it.
They officially stayed married for 3 years, although supposedly they were like actually all done being married like a year after, but just stayed together, and they're apparently still really good friends. So
apparently,
yeah. Hey,
which I
out.
Love that.
I
mean, they got married. What? She was 19.
She was 19. He was 21.
Yeah.
And if you really want to dive in, if you're an Angelina Jolie fan or just like love looking at her like the rest of us, because she was gorgeous. She still is gorgeous, but she was certainly gorgeous back at this point. She apparently did this like really like hilariously moderately racy photo shoot that like came out right before she auditioned for this movie, and so a lot of the like, you know, hilarious articles were like, well, she like seduced her way into this role, and I was like, yeah, she did. Good for her. Like she deserves every moment
just
of all
because a girl is good looking.
She took some pretty scandalous shots with her, pretty fantastic. She definitely hit the ground running in true Angelina style, so it was pretty fantastic.
Yes.
Well, welcome. If you have not yet seen Hackers, you need to watch Hackers. This is like the movie that made me be like, you know, this culture is cool. It's like Spies, but with computers.
I feel it definitely propelled us into like, Mom, Dad, could we get a home computer, please?
Yeah, definitely wanted a home computer. It's still like this movie, and you know, we were talking before we started, but movies like this, The Net, which came out around the same time.
Same year.
Same year. There were a bunch of these movies that like completely, in many ways, inaccurately showed like what computers were like at the time, but definitely made this whole computer culture, hacking culture, like just insanely cool, and felt like powerful it is but like felt powerful and cool to teenagers and preteens coming of age in the way that I'm sure that probably, you know, VR and some of the cool technologies are coming out now are like, you know, really cool and badass for kids coming through. But it was definitely
I mean, it really showed us, especially since this movie, so it's a bunch of high school kids that are into computers. And they, you know, they do sort of smaller things, I guess you could say, like take over a TV network to watch whatever TV show they want at 2 a.m. Not, you know, during prime time or anything. Or, you know, they mess with their class schedules to get into each other's classes, or with the sprinkler system, which is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And so it's like smaller stuff, but then they stumble across a big hack in like a big supercomputer, which in the movie they call a Gibson, which is cute because it's a shout out to the author of a very geeky sci-fi book, Necromancers. So Gibson's not a real computer. It's actually they're referencing just a regular supercomputer, which is extremely impressive still. And so one of them stumbles across what they think is a garbage file. They think it's a junk or like your trash file.
Yeah.
And he's just copying files out of it so he could prove to his friends like, hey, I was in a Gibson and look, I just took the trash. It happens to be, he happened to download a virus that was hiding there. And we find out that the head of security of this company, who run oil tankers, so their head of security and their head of, was it marketing and public relations, decide they're going to steal money from the company with this virus, which is called a worm, which is actually a real computer virus. So what it does is say off of every transaction takes a penny off. So then every penny adds up to, it was, I think, $25 million by the time the worm was done. Going through this
$1990.
Yes.
A lot of money now. Yeah.
I mean, it's still a lot of money now, let's be honest.
It's true. I would gladly take $25 million, but not from good people. Like,
no,
only bad people.
Steal it.
Yeah.
Katie she's like, I'm going to Robin Hood the money.
Yeah. I would Robin Hood the money.
I'm like, I would get it in an altruistic way. So they stumble across this virus, which of course the kid only downloaded a partial copy of the program, the code that is this virus.
Yeah, because he like
and
got out, or he got. He wasn't that he
his
got
mom
out.
turns his computer
his mom
off.
interrupted him. Yeah,
Joey, you need to go to bed.
His
She
mom
shuts
is
the computer
everything.
off.
Yeah, his mom is so cute. It's ridiculous.
So he gets arrested, and basically his friends have to help him figure out what's happening. So then one by one they're getting arrested, and this sort of bumbling FBI guy who doesn't really know what he's doing, but he knows he needs to stop these people. Like he knows that computer hackers are bad because they can potentially steal things or do bad things that he knows nothing about, which is actually historically accurate for the time. I'm like, I think also 1995 was the year they arrested Kevin Mitnick, who is like one of the most famous computer hackers. You should look him up. He has a very cool story. Also wrote a good book. Was in jail for many, many years for not actually stealing anything. Technically, he did steal something, but he gave it back. Like he didn't do anything bad. He did it to prove that we need cybersecurity.
Yeah, see, I feel like, and that's probably one of the like main reasons why, I guess not main reasons why I like this movie, but one of the many things that I think makes this movie really fun and relatable and such a cult classic for so many people is that it has this very like Robin Hood vibe to it, right? Like,
yeah.
like the hackers, the teenagers who are normally the the people in real life and in movies that are sort of ignored, or they're doing
overlooked.
Irresponsible things, or they're overlooked, are actually the ones that are highly capable, and like they're not doing bad things per se, like to some level, yes, but they're pushing boundaries, right? They're there to test and to play and to kind of prove themselves and to fit in the world, but they have this whole counterculture where they're just trying to figure themselves out, and when it becomes this world where it's they're being accused of something, they unite, right? And they come together to save the day. But it does kind of pin them against, like, it's like this corporate greed and the man kind of vibe versus this group of misfits. So like really similar to the same feel of Empire Records, which also came out in the same year as this one. 95, good year for movies. Good year for movies. So
at the beginning of the movie, the titular character, the main character, Dade Murphy, it shows him being arrested as a 10-year-old boy. He's being arrested for computer hacking. He basically hacked Wall Street and brought down thousands of computers all at the same time. And I mean, that would have been a really big deal. And we have incidentally seen things like this much after this movie happen in real life. And because he was 10 at the time, he is under house arrest. He's banned from using even a dial tone phone. He's like, no computers, no electronics, no dial tone phones until his 18th birthday. So at the beginning of the movie, then we see it's his 18th birthday. He's immediately actually hacking into a TV network to put on The Outer Limits. And he comes across another hacker, and they just moved to New York City. So he doesn't really know anybody. He doesn't know the underground. He's also been out of the game for a long time. He doesn't realize he's treading on somebody else's turf. So they sort of battle over what program is going to play on the TV network. And he's about to type his handle. So computer hackers have handles, so they don't obviously use their real names because they're not stupid. And they usually don't do big bad things from their home computer, which we see plays a role in the movie. And he comes up with a new handle, but nobody knows him, so they think he's just a bit of a joke.
Yeah.
Then when he gets to school, his first day of high school, he ends up bumping into, it's kind of almost like the laws of attraction. They kind of all find each other fairly quickly, these other hackers, and they become friends. So
I was wondering, and I'm curious to get your thoughts, and anyone in our live studio audience can chime in as well. I was posing all these questions to Dane last night, so Dane, you're not allowed to chime in, but everyone else can chime in. No, just kidding. You can answer if you want to. But I just couldn't wrap my head around the idea of being, I was trying to think it through. Okay. So you're 10 or 11 years old, You like you knew absolutely everything about computers and phones,
and
I
it's
guess,
the 80s
at that time, right? But then you are not allowed to exist in that world at all, right? For 7 or 8 years, so that's a pretty like large period of time at a really fundamental time of your life, and at a really fundamental time of like movements and changes in technology. Like I just couldn't quite wrap my head around like how easy or hard it would have been for him to just jump back into it. Like he could have certainly spent all that time reading manuals and reading books and I guess like watching TV or whatever else. But it was just, I was like, I wonder how hard, I know this is a movie, but I honestly like wonder how hard it would have been for like a real life person in that situation to actually get their hands on like a computer 7 years in the future from when they had touched a computer before and actually be able to do anything with it. Like it.
I feel like it's a little bit implied that he like never really gave it up and just didn't get caught.
Also, like, how did he not touch a phone? I was like, so he just didn't like,
I think he was allowed to use a rotator phone instead of a touch tone phone.
Okay, all right.
Instead of a boop 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 button phone, he could do the.
I don't know what that one is. I'm very young.
Stuff it. You liar. That's exactly the phone we had in the kitchen growing up. So it kind of implies that he had a computer, and because after his whole little battle in the middle of the night for the network, when he goes to take a shower in the morning and he has this cute little banter back and forth with his mom, it does throw up her spidey sense, and she goes to look into his bedroom and she's like, did you hook it up to the phone line? Because for our younger listeners, we used to have to hook up our computers through modems to our direct actual phone lines, which are called landlines. When you had a phone line that everybody can use in the house, it was called a landline. Just for, again, people, it seems that is a thing.
That's actually a good point that it's funny. I did pick up on that, but I didn't put that together with this particular form of thinking. But you're right. He could technically have been using a computer, so keeping up with his computer skills, but just not using a computer online. Or he was just.
I feel like he was using it online. He just didn't get caught. Like he just didn't, hack a Gibson this time. He didn't take down Wall Street this time. He just did small local things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's this scene that I love in the movie. At the beginning, when he first gets there, he meets Kate Libby, played by Angelina Jolie, and he's immediately taken with her, extremely sexy good looks.
Yeah.
And she shows him where his class is. He goes to the student office. He gets his schedule. She's like, I'll show you to your first class. And then they bump into somebody else. It's like, hey, Kate, did you show him the swimming pool on the roof? And granted, they're in New York City. Okay. So the fact that this school, which is probably in a skyscraper kind of office building, has a swimming pool. No.
Apparently it is actually a real life school that a number of hackers eventually came out of later following this movie. But it does have a pool. It's not on the roof, but it does actually have a pool. So
amazing.
I guess, but you're right. It is an absolutely fantastic.
So he goes up to the roof to see this pool instead of going to class, which I was like, he's supposed to be a genius, and he gets locked out. So there's him, and you see a bunch of nerds are like, no, hold the door. And he's like, oh shit. Then you see the next scene, he comes down and he's soaking wet because obviously it started pouring rain on the roof. And they're like, oh my God, I guess he found the pool. Super funny. Flash forward to, he's hacking into the school system, setting up the sprinklers to go off at a certain time.
Yeah.
And one of the hackers were introduced to Freak, which I adore him. We would have been friends in high school for sure. We had the same t-shirt. He was wearing this sort of t-shirt with a cat on it, like a kitten. And it was kind of like that spray painted / glitter background. I literally had that t-shirt for real. So he comes up to him, he's like, what are you doing? And Dade's just looking at his watch. And he's like, doesn't say anything. He's just indicates, hang on. And he's looking at his watch, and then he pops open an umbrella. The sprinklers come out as class comes out. and everybody's getting soaked. And he's like, oh my God, this is amazing. He's like, okay, now we're friends. And of course, it really pisses Angelina Jolie off. Kate marches up to him. She's like, what the hell is this? And he's like, well, I guess there was a leak on the pool.
Yeah, the dialogue in this movie is absolutely incredible all the way through. And there's I think what is just so fun about this movie is the level of control that teenagers have over their world through technology. Like not to read like too deeply into it, but like they, you know, him being able to do something like that, you know, it's, you know, and there's other, you know, other shows and movies where they do things like, you know, take over the like, loudspeakers and things over the school, or they, you know, they do other kinds of things where it's like, it kind of takes it a level past like, you know, class clown and into this this like super level of cool that you can control things that you're not really supposed to control. And they do this whole like Dade's character and Kate's character have this kind of like hack off battle where they're trying to where they're trying to like prove who's the better hacker. And even that is like incredibly fun to watch and just to like imagine like the I don't know, the electricity in those kinds of moments where you're doing something you really shouldn't do, but it's like this kind of fun
pranks they were pulling.
Yeah.
Like they
real bad. You
like
don't
the
want
biggest
to be the guy
prank,
on the other side.
The biggest prank that they ended up doing was Dade went into like City Records and made the FBI agent that's kind of been hounding them or talking to the press about how hackers are so evil. He made him deceased.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that.
Clearly you can.
That, I mean, of course you can. I mean, like people do like, you know, like Fisher Stevens plays like the bad guy, the plague security guard in this, and he actually like hacks into the FBI database and makes Dade's mom like, you know, she has like thousands of dollars in parking tickets. She has a warrant out for her arrest for prostitution. She like, there are a lot of bad things you can do. And like making somebody deceased is definitely one of them. So though it was funny because the FBI agent was so bumbling and buffoonish, like, I mean, that would have been taking it too far.
Nat has a moment of sadness, old people sadness for the. She was like, "Oh, but his credit card got cut up, and now he's dead." I don't understand.
Oh no, not old people. I mean, like when I was a kid, I'm like, if anybody had pulled that off, it'd be like you run home and you melt every diskette you have, every floppy you have, you cut up, shred every piece of fucking paper you have. Which is funny because that's the scene when Joey gets out of jail and he passes the diskette with the partial virus on it to Freak. Freak is like, are you insane? You're so stupid. How could you give this to me? You have a tail. The FBI is following them. He runs home and he literally is shredding everything. I'm like, accurate. 100% accurate. Like,
accurate. I will say, like, and I obviously it worked for the movie. This is like an incredibly, as we said, cult classic, popular movie. But I did love the like intensity of the like police force / FBI in these movies. Like they're like, it's like 150 people with assault rifles, and they like
in a New York apartment.
Burst down the doors in like a New York apartment to arrest like 15-year-olds. They're like, they're all in. They're all in on this. They're like not holding back anything. It's kind of incredible, and they're like, and just seem to be able to like What also makes it comical for me is that they don't seem to understand. So the bumbling idiot who's leading this like task force,
he like just knows it's bad, but knows nothing about it.
He has no proof, because in this movie, the only other person that seems to know anything about computers or hacking is the actual bad guy in the movie.
Like the private consultant.
Yeah.
Like the private security for this private industry that the FBI seems to.
Yeah.
And the FBI is just relying on this like guy who works for a private company.
Yeah.
For all their information. They even let him go in to Dade's apartment, his mother's apartment, and threaten this high school kid. These two FBI agents, Mark Antony, which seeing this movie and seeing that that's Mark Antony in it, like J-Lo's ex-husband twice over, I'm like, how did he ever get with, like, he punched so far above his weight, that guy. Like, no offense. I mean, he's a wonderful singer.
We love him.
But he's like a scrawny little guy. He's a scrawny little guy, and he had Jennifer Lopez twice.
Yeah, hey,
amazing. I always thought that was hysterical. I love in the movie they read this Hacker's Manifesto. Not fiction, guys. That was the real Hacker's Manifesto. It was actually
Manifesto, yeah.
You can find it. You can look it up.
Also, all those books that they like pass off to Dave.
Oh yeah,
to, like,
those
test
are real.
His knowledge are all real as well. Yeah.
The big red book of crap that doesn't fit on any shelf. Yeah. That's real.
Yeah,
like,
it's pretty fantastic.
I studied computer science at a point so I had some of those books.
Geeking out for real. My goodness, I love. Paul is chiming in and saying that he likes how the police were screaming in the yard, the dog is barking, and the mother is surprised that the door is knocked down. It's true. Yeah, is the shock. I do love the arrests where he's like in the middle of taking a shower. Like they like in many cases they seem to just burst through the door and just like hold back the New York mom while they arrest the kid. And I'm like, I don't know.
I love when they arrest Freak and it's like his Puerto Rican mom is like, what's going on? And she's just beating the shit out of him, and he's like, arrest me already.
He's probably one of my favorite characters in this movie because I
have to say
his energy is fantastic, and he's just like this really passionate, amazing like friend and community member, and he's funny, and I think he's definitely one of those.
We also have to talk about Matthew Lillard.
Yes, well, we love Matthew Lillard.
He is iconic.
He is
especially because of this movie. In this movie, his name is Serial, as in serial freak. Like it's a hacking sort of thing.
Serial, not. Yep.
And he, there's this one scene when they're in class, and like the brief instance that they're actually in high school in this movie, where it's an English lit class, and they're supposed to write a quote from like a formative author of the 20th or 21st century, and Kate Libby writes something. Her mom's like a famous author, so she writes like this feminist quote, and then Dade writes this really famous deep quote, and then we get to Serial, to Matthew Lillard, and he's like, of all the things I've lost, I miss my mind the most. Ozzy Osbourne.
It totally suits his character, and it's just so perfectly Matthew Lillard. Like,
yeah. And I love how they have this like youth club that they go to that's kind of like a roller skate park inside, and they can like bring in their own food, and it has like this big arcade, and they play music and do spray painting, and like very 90s. Like we had youth clubs like that around too, but they weren't as cool.
That's like not a thing, at least in my area anymore, and like the teenagers of today need a place to hang out.
Hang out without parent supervision.
Yeah,
like without, I say that in quotations, like they have some supervision, but
we need a funny. Yeah, Paul's reminding me, but I, I think my favorite Matthew Lillard moment is the same.
Oh my god,
is the same as Paul's. So they're trying to like they're teaming up this group to try to get as much information as they possibly can before they
have to go shopping. It's called social engineering. So what they do is they have to integrate into like either on the phone or go in person to an office or dumpster dive for old memos to get like passwords and other information, internal memos that might have any information that would help them. That's so he goes to the office, and he's like an IT guy. He has like a little hard hat, a little wife beater, a white tank top. We don't say that anymore. That's my 90s are showing. He has like his jeans that are falling off and like a tool belt, and I love he's under this woman's desk, and when he gets out from under the desk, and he's a very tall man.
He's a tall man, yeah.
He's not a small person. He comes out from under this like tiny standard desk, and the tool belt's over his crotch, and he kind of like pops it at her, and she's like, "Oh," and he, with all of this like scrawny white boy audacity, is like, "This is super hot." And he struts away with a giant butt crack showing.
Yep.
I loved it. The level of comedy there was just so good.
Yeah, it is fantastic. I as you're saying that, I'm thoroughly loving reading some of the notes in the live chat here of people talking about things that they tried to do back in the day. So if you fancied yourself a bit of a hacker and want to share one of your stories, it's too funny. I love the definitely.
Don't say anything that you'd get caught
Don't say
for.
anything you would get caught for. Yeah, if you're an actual hacker, don't
What
put
is the
anything
statute of limitations on this conversation?
But definitely, I definitely guilty similar to Dan of doing, trying to find people and trying to do fun searches and things like that. So yeah, I think it's too funny listening to all of
Yeah.
this.
I mean, there was definitely not a time in my life where I definitely did not use a school, because schools had stronger computers, like not necessarily high schools, had, better computers and more data, more memory, and they were faster. So like, I don't know anybody who ever used a school computer to like pirate movies back in the day. That definitely wasn't
music,
a thing.
I guess, before movies was just music instead of anything else.
No, but it never happened.
Didn't happen at all.
It's like one time I got shoved in there was a scheduling conflict with classes, and I got shoved into a intro to computers class, like an intro to like Microsoft Office. And it was like, I did the whole course load in one class. I handed it in, just a stack of discs, and I was like, diskettes, and I'm like, I'm done. The teacher was like, why are you in this class? I'm like, I didn't have a choice.
I don't know what happened.
I don't know. It was back in the days, I think, when Clippy was new.
Oh, Clippy.
You guys don't know him. Ooh.
Yeah, I know, yeah, Paul's like, school computer. Yeah, computer labs. We had computer labs, Paul.
Computer labs, yeah. Some of the universities in Montreal actually still have active supercomputers, which is like really, really cool.
I know. Once again, and we said this in the last episode when we were talking about Robin of Locksley, who was a completely campy version of computer anything, but hilarious. Yeah. But it's just like the like ridiculous in the technology just gets me in all these, like the supercomputer that the bad guys are standing in front of, where it's like the size and scope fine, but like just the ridiculousness of it all was what made me happy.
This movie, they decided not to use CGI because they figured it wasn't very good at the time.
It wasn't. It was, yeah.
It wasn't.
Good decision.
So they actually animated or used physical sets to emulate like what was inside the computer. And I love like when all the hackers unite at the end, and it's hackers from around the world, they kind of put a call out to the manifesto to get everybody to help them with this. And you see they're attacking the Gibson with viruses that are actual real, like, or were, I mean, they're a little archaic at this point, but so there's one, it's like Cookie Monsters going across the screen, like, like eating data. And he's like, type cookie. I'm like, okay, all of that information was accurate, except for like an actual, like, emoji of Cookie Monster eating, like numbers and letters, like, oh, it was really funny.
My favorite part of that scene, in addition to just how like ridiculous the computer looks, you're just like, wow, that computer is badass. Look how big it is, and how like look at that technology. But then also, I thought it was absolutely amazing that like the woman who's like sleeping with the bad guy, who's like in it for all of the money to get away, is the like non-computer person in the movie who's just like asking all the questions that most people watching the movie would probably have, where she was like, what's this? What, like the whole thing is like shutting down and they're in huge trouble, and she's like, what's a Cookie Monster virus? What do
you mean a rabbit?
What do you mean a rabbit?
Rabbits have cancer?
I know. She was like, cancer? What? Like,
she was also like, total side note, but her suit, she had this very like 90s power suit, but it was literally glittery red, which was like, why? It was so, I feel like, so that was Lorraine Bracco and Fisher Stevens, which are very well known actors at the time too. Like, were they directed just like, go as hard on the camp as you can?
Yeah. Between that and then also,
I feel they were. It was so funny.
Fisher Stevens, who plays the ultimate bad hacker, the bad guy, has like from the moment that you see him on camera for the first time all the way through to the end, he's got this like evil lair, like super machismo apartment condo, whatever you want to call it, where like his bed is like this like jagged metal like triangle shaped thing on the floor, and it's like a loft with like all these like completely things that the kid from Blank Check would have bought to put in his house. That's what existed in this man's like evil lair. And every time they show it, I just like couldn't take him seriously as a bad guy. You're like, this is what you've bought with all of your money from being like an amazing computer guy.
Yeah.
Like just a really,
for being
really
a thief.
Amusing,
I
thief.
do love how his VR, because in part of it he's playing VR, is very similar. Like the eye goggles are the same still.
Yeah.
But what was smarter about VR in the 90s was that he had like a pod to stand in, basically, so he wouldn't like walk into shit or trip on the couch and break a toe like I've done, or like
had to stand still.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's pretty funny that like it. I'm like, VR technology has not changed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, on the inside it has. Like, what you see obviously has changed in technology since then. But I'm like, the hardware is the same, except it was slightly better in the 90s.
Exactly.
One of our live audiences mentioned all the sexual innuendos that happen in this movie. Yeah, the dialogue in this is pretty fire, I have to say. And yeah, they are high school kids, and maybe I'm not sure like where they would come up with things like, well, it looks like I'm on top now, or which is pretty tame. But even when they get to like so Kate's having this big house party, and all the guys, the hackers, are all in her room because they see she has a new laptop, and they're like checking it out, and they're oohing and awing over like the GUI in her setup and how fast it is and what the processor is and all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And she stumbles in with her boyfriend, and they're kind of making out on her bed, and they're like, like, oh my god. And then one of them says, Nikon says, what was it? Oh my god, Burns' wetware matches her software, which I was like, I still think that is one of the funniest lines ever, but I'm like, okay, high school kids, like, what are you talking about?
I mean, if you compare it again against like movies like Empire Records, like those are all supposed to be high school students as well, and there's a lot of maybe less, maybe it was less dark, I guess, for lack of a better word, like dark sexuality as this one is, but also I think that goes alongside with the whole kind of like good versus evil, like foreshadowing kind of like the possibility of evil within technology. I don't know. Yeah, I kind of.
Well, I also am thinking, I'm like, if you look at high school shows nowadays, or high school movies nowadays, I'm like, the kids are not just talking about like stuff like this. They're so much more worse than what's portrayed in 90s movies and high school kids.
I mean, it's basically just Kate's character, because at the very beginning of the movie,
sexual,
Dade's mom says something, and he tells her that he's still a virgin. So there's like,
just like, are you into girls? Yeah. And he's like, yes, mom, I'm into girls, and I'm still a virgin.
And none of the guys in the movie, like she's sort of the only one that like is clearly sexual and has a boyfriend, and like is just this. But yeah, it's an interesting point. You're right. It is a little weird for like how young they're seniors in high school, right? So they're
18. Like Dade is 18 in this. So.
But yeah, it's
he just turned 18. He got his computer back.
Exactly.
I do have to say though, it is very much part of that sort of 90s like cyberpunk look. Is like Dade was sporting those cargo pants with the male crop tops, not as 80 cropped top, but like short, like cut off t-shirts. Mm-hmm. And then there was always the like the leg harness, or like there was a lot of harnesses, and so that makes it sound super sexual, but I don't feel that it was. Maybe it's just because I was in high school at the time and didn't get it, but like these are also high school kids. That was just kind of the style.
Yeah,
it was kind of like that like hard geek style. Again, I'm not making it sound any better.
We make it sound totally cool.
We're making it sound less sexual, Natalie. Good job. Yeah. I have to say, I love Joey. Joey is such a funny character. He is like the epitome of a screw up in this movie. Like everything goes wrong basically because of him.
I know, but
So
what's great about it though is that they're like super supportive regardless. Like he's clearly younger than them and like way more incapable than they are. Like he's like coming up as a new hacker, and they're both like, "Oh, Iroh, you're terrible," but they're also like helping him learn and like totally are in it to save him. Yeah,
I mean, they save him in the end, but at the so when they first go to the youth club and they really get to know Dade more, and they kind of test him to see like what he knows, and they're like, "Oh no, you seem elite. Like you seem elite, or elite." It was a way to say that you were like
cool,
really good at hacking. You know, like you knew what you were doing. You weren't just pretending. And Joey points out, he's like, well, I would know more if you told me stuff, because he's bragging to them. He's like, no, I did something really cool the other day. Did you see on the news, like this ATM in Idaho was spitting out money? He's like, I did that. And they're like, from home? Like, you can't hack shit across state lines on your home computer. You're going to get arrested by the FBI, which then, of course, he downloads this shit from a Gibson on his home computer. So he's kind of an idiot. He does come through in the end.
He does come through in the end. And again, they all, I mean, I know that they're saving themselves as well as saving him, but like it is, Val puts it really well. He's totally like the little brother of the group. Like he's the one where they poke fun at him, but they also kind of want him to succeed, and they're trying to help him, and they're giving him a hard time, but in kind of like, but you're right, Jesse Bradford does such an amazing job with that role, and he was only 16 when he filmed this, so like props to him, because he really brings the character to life in a like really authentic way, and everything seems to work out in the end for him, which is hilarious.
He does have this funny scene where his lawyer, when he gets arrested, his lawyer basically convinces the FBI, like, look, he's 15, he's a juvenile, like he's an addict, he's addicted to his computers, he didn't actually do anything bad. Like, you say he has all this stuff, you've searched his place up and down, you've searched all his friends, like,
again,
you can't
find no evidence, so
no evidence, none. Which
none.
Very Kevin Mitnick got arrested, no evidence kind of vibes, but you know. So, which of course he does have the diskette, and he shoved it in like a vent, which they just didn't find. But
exactly.
So he's at this AA meeting, and it's like he does like, hi. Well, my lawyer says I'm an addict, so I have to be here, but I'm not an addict. And he's like chain smoking, but like holding a cigarette like a high school kid, because he doesn't know how to smoke. And he's like practically like vibrating because he's chugging coffee, and everybody's just like, yeah, you're not an addict, kid. Sure. It was really funny, that scene. Very cute. I also love when he's like running at the beginning of the movie. He's running after Freak, who's, you know, just meeting Dade for the first time, and they're chatting, and he's like, dude, and he's trying to like come up with a cool handle for his like hacker handle. He's like, how about Dr. Doom? And he's like, you're hopeless, man.
Yeah, he's totally the little brother. He's the one where you're like, oh, okay,
adorable.
I guess we'll have to help you out with this. Oh my gosh. Well, let me open up to make sure we haven't missed any fun facts. I know that there were a couple that were on my list. The one that I thought was interesting was and I didn't read like the full details of this, but the whole cast needed to spend time learning how to rollerblade. But I just thought it was interesting, like how much rollerblading like was like kind of part of this culture, and something that just doesn't really,
it really was though
exist anymore. Which is not that it doesn't exist, but like it's just not as much of a thing anymore, which is such a bummer. And I thought they did such a cool job with it.
I saw an article just today when we were doing some research, and it was saying like, you know, this movie really made rollerblading a part of this culture. I'm like, no, it really just was. And they're like, it made it seem like rollerblading was so cool. I'm like, but it was. Everybody. Yeah. I find roller skating's in now, which is not rollerblading.
Yeah, no, yeah.
It's not. During lockdown, I got myself some roller skates because I'm like, this will be cute. I could do this in my basement, like push the couch back. It's not roller skate, like roller skates and roller blades. Different movements. I got pads, let's just say.
Hey, you know what? I think we did pretty well, given that you knew and came up with all of the different fun facts. I don't think we've missed that many. The one that I thought was actually absolutely hilarious and so like perfect. I wonder if a marketing team would equally be able to pull this off, but they thought it would be a really great idea to create an official website for this movie. And keep in mind, this came out in 1995, so this was like not a common thing like today. But
let's just say pretty much only hardcore Trekkies had computers at the time.
Yeah, exactly. Like building a website was not a thing, and probably many reasons why it became one of the many reasons why it became a cult classic. But the website was put online and then immediately hacked to look absolutely ridiculous. And I guess the creators of the website were just like, yeah, that we're just gonna leave that. That's how it goes. And then other
that's
sites,
the best marketing you could possibly have.
Exactly. And then other sites still claim that they did that intentionally, but I choose to believe that it was just hacked, because I think that that's absolutely
I don't think they had. I mean, obviously they had real hackers work on this script and on this set.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like I'm assuming. I think they would have. I think that was kind of like their best case scenario. Like if I had been working on this, I would have been like, let's hope some little shit out there is going to wreck this site, because that will be epic.
Exactly. Absolutely incredible. Hank has a fun fact for us. I love when the live studio audience chimes in with fun facts. Doc's traveling, so everyone's got to fill in for him. Angelina Jolie doesn't speak to her dad anymore, but while making this movie, she wouldn't let him out of her sight due to her being nervous around all the younger men all the time on the set. Oh, that's really cute. Yeah, she nailed it in this movie. Again, this was one of her, I think was her first role, or like her first major role. And she in many ways carried this.
I mean, 19 is still pretty young.
Yeah,
like, she carried a movie.
She carried the movie, and I love, we've been talking a little bit lately in like modern movie culture about just about feminism and movies made by women for women starring strong women leads. I would say that like for being a 90s movie, she was a really strong female lead in this movie. Like
she was iconic. She definitely influenced my style in high school for sure.
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm like, yes, all of that.
Yeah.
Oh, fun fact, the director Ian Softly also had done the movie Backbeat about the Beatles just as they were up and coming to be the Beatles, which is also an iconic movie. And Katie and I, it was one of our favorite when we were younger. Mm-hmm. We were obsessed with Stu Sutcliffe. He was so hot. Stu Sutcliffe, in case you don't know, is technically a former Beatles member, but you really have to deep dive and look that up, because it's not the Beatles that you know.
It's not the Beatles that you know. All right, I want to before we go to our rating system, I just wanted to pull back some of these other fun stories. So if you're watching in our live studio audience, you can drop in your potato rating or star rating if you're boring, what you thought of this movie. And if you're not in the live studio audience and you're just listening to this later, you just drop us an email or leave us a comment on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. Let us know what you thought of this one, what your rating was. We'd love to hear it. And you can always submit your movie ideas in either the show notes or the description on YouTube. You can grab our movie list and submit your own ideas or see our never-ending list of movies. But we did it for this one. Dane says, fun story time. Back when I was in college, MTV, when they played music videos, had a show where you could call in and vote which movie was coming up next. A friend wrote a Pearl script, and the video we wanted won by a 99.6 to 0.4 margin. I'm glad that they gave it 0.4.
That's amazing.
Like they didn't just like fully give in. That's absolutely incredible.
I left you. It was the margin for error there.
All right, I'm not going to say
one other thing.
Oh, you go ahead, Nat.
Well, I was going to say one other thing I want to shout out, and I had mentioned it in previous podcasts, that we often get called millennials, but this movie, you can't Mandela effect it away from me now, guys. Just watch this movie. Matthew Lillard, at one point when he gets Kate, so Kate and Date are having this, their whole vibe in this movie is the enemies to lovers trope, let's be honest. Yeah. And it's at the point where the pinnacle where they have to work together. So Cyril convinces Kate to go over and convince Zero Cool to help them. Like, they really need his hacking skills. Now, they don't know that they don't know he's Zero Cool. Yeah, like they don't know that he was this famous,
infamous, yeah,
like the most infamous hacker of all time in the scope of this movie. So they go over to ask him. They're like, "Look, we have this diskette and whatever," and he's like, "I can't help you." And he's not finding his words to say because I have a record. So he's like, "I just can't do it. I can't do it." And Serial says, "We of the Nintendo generation have a wake-up call moment here. We are the Nintendo generation, guys. 78 to 86 is Nintendo generation. Fight me." We are not millennials.
Nintendo generation.
We are not millennials, and Gen X didn't want us. So here we are.
Solidly in between. We are the want to be / we're actually hacker generation.
We're the micro generation where nobody wanted us, and now millennials are trying to claim us. I'm like, we don't have the same cultural reference points. We can't be from the same generation.
We can't be friends. We are too busy.
But I love that it's actually mentioned in this.
Yes,
and it's like, see, we did have a name when we existed at the time. The second he said
it came flooding back, and then that was in this movie, and then I was like, oh, now it's gonna have fun with this one.
I think in my notes, in my show notes, I actually wrote, "I didn't make it up.
Vindication.
Bite my Punky Brewster ass, millennials." Is actually in my notes.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, that made me so happy.
We are here. Hank is giving it 4 potatoes. Paul also 4 Christian taters. Val gave 3. Val's still Val's not entirely there.
It's a pretty niche movie, guys. I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan asks an interesting question. Would they have been enemies if she knew he was zero cool? Yeah, I don't know.
She would have fought him anyway.
She probably would have fought him anyway. She probably would have tried to.
I mean, he got on her turf.
Yeah. I did love in that scene, the first scene where they're like battling over the movies. You have like the robotic arms that are like holding the VHS, and they're like battling like Rock'em Sock'em dolls, and it was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. I'm like, oh man, I miss my calling. That would just be a really fun Friday night for me.
And a cute little thing on the to lovers note, at the end of the movie, the guys had decided that Dade won. And the bet was, from their little hack wars that they had earlier in the movie, that if Dade won, she has to go on a date with him. Mm-hmm. And if she won, he would be her slave. And then they added, both of them would have to wear a dress. Mm-hmm. On whoever won. Like, he would have to wear a dress to be her slave, and she would have to wear a dress on the date. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because at the end of the movie, they do say, she's like, "I still think you would have," because he says, "You would look really good in a dress," and she says, "I think you would have looked better." But he was kind of wearing a dress.
He was wearing like a really long coat shirt thing. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was like, is he wearing a dress? Yeah.
I'm like, he kind of does look really hot in a dress because he's wearing a dress just with pants.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Oh my goodness. Well, here we are. I went with 6 because it just, I don't know. Iconic.
I was like, 5 taters, Katie. Add an extra bonus tater.
Bonus tater. Yeah. 5 plus 1 bonus tater, just because, I don't know. Like the chemistry in this movie. Again, maybe it's just because it really feels like a computer version of Empire Records to me that I just love it so much, but it holds up. I like it. It was still a blast to watch, even though none of the technology is like, it's all dated. Even if it was old, it's not like accurate anymore. Like, it's just, I don't know. I just thought it was a really like great us versus them, damn the man, hack the empire, hack the world. Yeah, I just thought it was, Dan said, really this movie helped shape my youth.
It's true.
It was one of those ones I just think of often.
It influenced like how we dressed. It influenced how we talked. It influenced the music we listened to. Oh, that's something we forgot to mention. Ian Softley, the director, and Katie and I were talking about it just before logging on.
Yeah.
He chose like underground, like Prodigy and electronica music, like Orbital, to really be, and they were very like fringe underground kind of stuff at the time.
Yeah.
And he chose that to be the soundtrack because he wanted to emulate like the intensity of like electronics, like going through a computer and all of this. He wanted the viewers to feel as well as see. So my question is, was this music part of the culture already, or did this movie influence the culture to adopt this music? And
Yeah,
I really can't remember. I don't know. It's the same to me. So,
I mean, it's probably a little bit of both. It makes me think a little bit when we were talking about Moulin Rouge and how musically defining that movie was, and how kind of it re-energized people into loving not soundtracks, but like
musicals.
Yeah, I guess musical soundtracks, and brought back that. I don't know the answer to your question, but I do love. So Paul is just chiming in and saying that this movie makes him want to watch War Games and The Net. I am really loving one of my favorite parts of this show and of rewatching a lot of these movies is that I feel like whatever movie it is that I'm rewatching, I'm like in love with. But then also, like Paul, it's like I'm like, oh, now I need to watch these other movies. It really is this like. It's funny how many of them come out in kind of clusters, or like even if they didn't come out closely together, like your mind groups them together based on like your level of nostalgia or what topics they were about. But yeah, I think
when we originally wrote our movie list that you guys can add to and comment on, that's how like we alphabetized the list. Thank you, Katie and Doc. But the way I had handed the list into them was basically how my brain. I'm like, Hackers. Ooh, The Net. Ooh, War Games. Ooh, The Wizard 280s. Okay. And then I'm like, oh, well, Fred Savage. So then let's add. And it would just go like, tuk, 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 tuk. And it's like this all over, kind of a very high fidelity moment. How
another good one.
in the book and movie, he describes how he
thinks of music.
Well, no, how he has his record collection. Organized, like on the shelf. It's like, she's like, how is this organized? He's like, chronologically. And she's like, chronologically? He's like, yeah, how the music came into my life. Like, and that's basically how I made our movie list.
Shoot, we'll have to reorganize it back into your order so that we can.
No, my order is chaos, guys. You'd be like, why does your brain work like that?
They'll be like, why is the movie list like this? You'll be like, it's chronological in the order that we appreciate it in.
Because apparently I'm neurospicy, whatever that means. The kids have told me.
I'm in for it. That's part of the Nintendo Gen. We're all just neurospicy. It's all good. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for hanging out with us for Hackers. Thank you to our live studio audience. If you're not in the studio audience, you're missing out. It's super fun. So you'll have to join us most Thursdays, 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. And this is how we record the episode. So you're like, oh, shoot, I wasn't in the live audience. That's okay. You can watch the replay version of it, or you can watch it on the YouTube Music app. Or you can listen to it wherever you get podcasts, including YouTube podcasts, which is super exciting for us. But let us know what movies you want us to do next, or what your favorite. I've been asking this question all over the place, so I'll keep asking it, but send it in to us. What is your favorite movie and why? I can't answer it, so you guys will have to answer for me. It depends on what day you ask me and what where my mind is at the moment. But it's been fun watching everyone's comments. Because it's really interesting. It's like some people, their why is like really specific, and other people it's more general, and some it's like a point in time in their life. And I just think it's been really fun. So let us know what your favorite movie is and why, and hey, maybe we'll review it when we get to it on our list. But this has been fun. And Hackers, it's so good. If you haven't yet watched it, please watch it.
Great soundtrack. Also, there's 3 full soundtracks to it because they really couldn't condense it to one. So have fun with that.
Yeah. Go on a
and
long
also,
road trip.
This movie definitely made me miss payphones, because I remember they do this thing called phone freaking, where you would just drop a quarter in, or a dime or whatever it was, into the phone, and you would record it on like a handheld tape cassette recorder.
Yeah.
And then you would get your coin back, and then you could just then re-pick up the receiver and play the recording, like, so it would think that you were. Anyways, I'm like, that was fun. And payphones don't exist anymore, so we can't even do these cool things anymore.
Just like, not even just payphones, but like phones in general, and what everyone was capable of doing. And again, we talked about this last week, but this comes up in like Home Alone. It comes up in like a ton of these movies where, like, aside from Hackers, a ton of these movies where even like teens,
Goonies.
tweens, like kids
like
are
these
able
kids invent all these crazy things.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
I love
and are
it.
not even just like inventing, but just like being able to kind of like manipulate and play with things where even today they would just be like, I would like you to buy me this thing. Like they were able to really leverage what they had and do good and evil things with them. It's kind of amazing. I love it.
Fun fact, technically the first hackers in history hacked into the newly developed phone lines way back in the
that checks out.
It was like the late 1800s.
Yeah.
Technically it was the first hack. The first known computer hacker, his name was Captain Crunch.
Oh, good
and
name.
I can't remember what his hack was, like his infamy was from.
We'll have to look it up.
But anyways, yeah. I just remember his name was Captain Crunch, and it's like, I love it.
Solid name choice. I love it. Yeah, Paul doesn't know anything about tricking a payphone. Yeah, I love it. And we're convincing Val to watch more movies. All right, Val, well, you have to watch more, and then you have to tell us what your favorite movie is.
Yeah, Val, what do you want us to watch with you?
What should we watch with you? We have a really long list, so we're happy to pull something from our list and give you some recommendations. Oh, my goodness. Well, we will see you not next week, but the following week. I told you, we're not great at every Thursday, and it's entirely my fault. Yeah. But that's all right. The following Thursday,
most Thursdays.
Yeah, most Thursdays.
Or Wednesdays.
What are we
at
doing?
9?
Yeah, or Wednesdays at 9. What are we doing next, Nat? Since we just talked about a whole bunch of movies, are we going to stay on theme and go to the net or war games? Maybe
war games, because I know the net. I mean, though I love Sandra Bullock, like I do remember the computering in it was non-existent. It was real bad.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you guys want to watch us dump on a movie, that could be fun.
We haven't
too.
done that. So maybe.
I mean, I did kind of dump on Loxley last week. Let's be honest.
We did Loxley entirely to make Hank angry and to be able to dump on it. No. I'm up for doing war games. I think that'd be fun.
War games.
Says, war
Let's
games.
do it. Yeah.
All right.
Matt, 2 weeks, war games, guys.
All right. We'll see you back in 2 weeks, 9 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube. And in the meantime, send us an email, leave us a comment, send us a DM, however you want to get in touch with us, and let us know what your favorite movie is and why, so we can keep building our list. And we will see you all next time. Bye, Nat. Bye, everyone.
Bye.